Learn English through story. India.
India, country that occupies the greater part of South Asia. It is made up of 28 states and 8 union territories, and its national capital is New Delhi, built in the 20th century just south of the historic hub of Old Delhi to serve as India's administrative centre. Its government is a constitutional republic that represents a highly diverse population consisting of thousands of ethnic groups and hundreds of languages. India became the world's most populous country in 2023, according to estimates by the United Nations. It is known from archaeological evidence that a highly sophisticated urbanized culture, the Indus civilization, dominated the northwestern part of the subcontinent from about 2600 to 2000 BC. From that period on, India functioned as a virtually self-contained political and cultural arena, which gave rise to a distinctive tradition that was associated primarily with Hinduism, the roots of which possibly can be traced to the Indus civilization. Other religions, notably Buddhism and Jainism, originated in India, though their presence there is now quite small, and throughout the centuries residents of the subcontinent developed a rich intellectual life in such fields as mathematics, astronomy, architecture, literature, music, and the fine arts. Throughout its history, India was intermittently disturbed by incursions from beyond its northern mountain wall. Especially important was the coming of Islam, brought from the northwest by Arab, Turkish, Persian, and other raiders, beginning early in the 8th century CE. Eventually, some of those raiders stayed. By the 13th century, much of the subcontinent was under Muslim rule, and the number of Muslims steadily increased. Only after the arrival of the Portuguese navigator Vasco da Gama in 1498 and the subsequent establishment of European maritime supremacy in the region did India become exposed to major external influences arriving by sea, a process that culminated in the decline of the ruling Muslim elite and absorption of the subcontinent within the British Empire. Direct administration by the British, which began in 1858, effected a political and economic unification of the subcontinent. As a result of the Indian independence movement, British rule came to an end on August 14th to 15th, 1947, celebrated annually as Independence Day. The subcontinent was then partitioned along religious lines into 2 separate countries: India, with a majority of Hindus, and Pakistan, with a majority of Muslims. The eastern portion of Pakistan later split off to form Bangladesh. Many British institutions stayed in place, such as the parliamentary system of government. English continued to be a widely used lingua franca, and India remained within the Commonwealth. Hindi became the official language, and a number of other local languages achieved official status, while a vibrant English language intelligentsia thrived. India remains one of the most ethnically diverse countries in the world. Apart from its many religions and sects, India is home to innumerable castes and tribes, as well as to more than a dozen major and hundreds of minor linguistic groups from several language families unrelated to one another. Religious minorities, including Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, and Jains, still account for a significant proportion of the population. Earnest attempts have been made to instill a spirit of nationhood in so varied a population, but tensions between neighboring groups have remained and at times have resulted in outbreaks of violence. Yet social legislation has done much to alleviate the disabilities previously suffered by formerly untouchable castes, tribal populations, women, and other traditionally disadvantaged segments of society. At independence, India was blessed with several leaders of world stature, most notably Mohandas Karamchand, Mahatma Gandhi, and Jawaharlal Nehru, who were able to galvanize the masses at home and bring prestige to India abroad. The country has played an increasing role in global affairs. Contemporary India's increasing physical prosperity and cultural dynamism, despite continued domestic challenges and economic inequality, are seen in its well-developed infrastructure and a highly diversified industrial base, in its pool of scientific and engineering personnel, one of the largest in the world, in the pace of its agricultural expansion, and in its rich and vibrant cultural exports of music, literature, and cinema. Though the country's population remains largely rural, India has 3 of the most populous and cosmopolitan cities in the world: Mumbai, Bombay, Kolkata, Calcutta, and Delhi. Three other Indian cities, Bengaluru, Bangalore, Chennai, Madras, and Hyderabad, are among the world's fastest-growing high-technology centers, and most of the world's major information technology and software companies now have offices in India. India is a large and diverse polyglot nation whose tempo of life varies from region to region and from community to community. By the early 21st century, the lifestyle of middle-class and affluent urban families differed little from that of urbanites in Europe, East Asia, or the Americas. For the most part, however, the flow of rural life continued much as it always had. Many small villages remained isolated from most forms of media and communications, and work was largely done by hand or by the use of animal power. Traditional forms of work and recreation only slowly have given way to habits and pastimes imported from the outside world. The pace of globalization was slow in much of rural India, and even in urban areas, Western tastes in food, dress, and entertainment were adopted with discrimination. Indian fashions have remained the norm. Indians have continued to prefer traditional cuisine to Western fare. And though Indian youths are as obsessed as those in the West with pop culture, Indians produce their own films and music, albeit strongly influenced by Western styles, which have been extremely popular domestically and have been successfully marketed abroad. Throughout India, custom and religious ritual are still widely observed and practiced. Among Hindus, religious and social custom follows the samskara, a series of personal sacraments and rites conducted at various stages throughout life. Observant members of other confessional communities follow their own rites and rituals. Among all groups, caste protocols have continued to play a role in enforcing norms and values, despite decades of state legislation to alleviate caste bias. India does not have a single cuisine. Its wide variety of climates, soil types, cultures, and religions, as well as influences from other countries, produce a diverse range of cuisines that can be grouped under the term Indian cuisine. As a whole, Indian cuisine can be dated to the prehistoric period, and it can be found around the world wherever there is a significant Indian diaspora. Pulses, edible seeds from plants of the legume family, and grains are among the key portions of the Indian diet. Dal, a Hindi word that refers to both raw and cooked lentils, may be the closest thing India has to a national dish. The cuisine of northern India shows the influence of the Islamic conquest. Dairy products such as milk, ghee, and paneer, cottage cheese, are commonly used there, and many vegetables are cooked in yogurt or onion and tomato-based gravies. The cuisine of northeastern India is rice-based. Rice is grown on terraced fields in the region's hilly terrain, and freshwater fish appears in many dishes, as does pork, beef, mutton, and chicken. In southern India, rice is the staple food, and it is eaten with sambar, a watery stew comprising lentil, tamarind, and vegetables. Southern India is also home to a range of diverse cuisines: Andhra, Tamil, Chettinad, Kerala, and Mangalore, among others. The west coast of India also has distinct cuisines that vary across Goa, where rice and fish are the staples, Maharashtra, and Gujarat, which is predominantly vegetarian. Spices and herbs are a predominant feature of Indian cooking, and spices indigenous to India were an important driver of European exploration of the world in the 15th and 16th centuries. Food is typically eaten by hand across India, with minimal use of cutlery. Architecture is perhaps India's greatest glory. Among the most renowned monuments are many cave temples hewn from rock, of which those at Ajanta and Ellora are most noteworthy. The Sun Temple at Konarak, Konarka. The vast temple complexes at Bhubaneswar, Khajuraho, and Kanchipuram, Conjeevaram. Such Mughal masterpieces as Humayun's tomb and the Taj Mahal, and from the 20th century, buildings such as the High Court in the planned city of Chandigarh, designed by the Swiss-born architect Le Corbusier, and the Bhopal State Assembly building in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, designed by the Indian architect and urban planner Charles Correa. Also notable are stepwells, such as the Rani Ki Vav, Queen's Stepwell, in Patan, northern Gujarat, now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Other traditional art forms in India, painting, embroidery, pottery, Ornamental woodworking and metalworking, sculpture, lacquerware, and jewelry are also well represented. Much of the best work resulted from patronage by the court, often being produced in royally endowed workshops, by temples, and by wealthy individuals. Vigorous folk traditions have a very long history, as witnessed by the ancient rock paintings found in scores of caves across India. India stands as a vibrant tapestry woven from its rich historical legacy, diverse cultural traditions, and dynamic modern advancements. As a land of profound contrasts, it juxtaposes ancient practices with cutting-edge technology and traditional values with contemporary aspirations.